And we're back, and guess what? The legislature is in session, and so we're going to talk about where the Democrat majority comes up with the money for their ambitious agenda, shall we say.
Yeah.
And to talk about this, we brought back the Hudsons over here, Republican strategist Roger Hudson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good. And from the Democratic side, Miller Hudson. How are you, sir?
I'm well.
All right. I get the impression that there were a lot of people who were really hanging their hats on the idea of Proposition CC passing and all this surplus Tabor revenue ending up being available to spend. And obviously that didn't happen.
No.
So they have a very ambitious agenda down there at the State House. And the question becomes, how are they going to pay for it? Let's start over here with you, Roger. How are they going to pay for everything that they did last year and everything they want to do this year?
Well, hold on to your wallet. Do you know where your wallet is right now?
It's hopefully in my front pocket where it's supposed to be.
You better hold on to your wallet. Well, actually, if you actually look at Jared Polis's State of the State, you get a really good view of that. Because when he talks about his vision for the state, he really doesn't talk about where any money is coming from. Actually, he talks about where he's going to be spending more money. There's even more talk about spending and more initiatives and so forth. So I don't think you see an awful lot of different places, different streams. I think you're going to see moving of money, different pockets, possibly new enterprises. But the other Hudson, I think we disagree on where those enterprises are going to come from. But I don't see a lot of different places. I mean, we've been in this hole before. That's why we're in a $9 billion hole for transportation. I think $9 billion last time we looked. But you don't see a lot of people talking about where we're going to come up with more money. You don't even see Republicans talking about where we're going to see more money from where that's going to come from. We see more spending. It's really, I was really disappointed, especially the State of the State. Made me really, really disappointed.
Okay. Miller, you not only did Prop CC not pass, we have hit the Taxpayer Bill of Rights revenue limits, and our income tax is kicked down for the year, which, interestingly enough, Jared Polis has seemed to celebrate on social media as good news, despite the fact that he needs some money to spend. But Roger brought up transportation. You spilled a lot of ink on transportation. Are we going to see any money spent on transportation, or are they going to have to squeeze other things to pay for yet other things?
I really don't know where the transportation debate's going to go. I think that they can probably wring out a couple of extra $100 million like they did last year, but up against $9 billion, it's just, it's an extra interchange somewhere, and that's about it. They're going to have to go back to the voters at some point on this. But back to the larger issue is never underestimate the ingenuity of the Joint Budget Committee and its staff. I think that one thing that has not been discussed and that we don't look at is that when Tabor passed, 67% of state spending came out of the general fund. It's now down to 40% and headed lower. Now, where is that money? It's tied up in enterprises, it's tied up in certificates of participation and all of these other Rube Goldberg mechanisms that have been devised to pull dollars out from under Tabor controls. And so even though you have a cap, you also have this spending limit. Revenue is pouring into the bathtub. It should slosh out and give us refunds. But as I said earlier, somebody's pulled the plug out of the bottom of the tub. So, and that plug are these enterprises and things where we get essentially revenues off the books.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because a lot of people might not be aware of this, because we always like to say the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights applies to that portion of the budget, not the budget, that portion of the budget that still falls under the cap. And it has been steadily dropping over the years as things become enterprise. And these are essentially government-run businesses that are run off of some kind of fee structure and get to be taken out from underneath the Tabor revenue cap. And we've seen a lot of this over the past couple of years. I don't see many places for new money to come in.
I don't either.
Unless the Democrats decide to enterprise some more things, which means more fees and possibly more taxes disguised as fees. What is left to be enterprised?
Yeah, honestly, unless you create another lemonade stand, what in the world is that? And frankly, I don't see that, because I don't think you can keep up with the spending that you're looking at. I mean, we're looking at projections of already programs that are running out of money that are so large. I mean, there are a lot of parents who love the free. I love free preschool, pre-K. It's already outspending the money that was already. It was only a year and a half that money was already put in the budget to pay for itself. It's already running out of money. It's done this year. So where do you find money to pay for the things that are already on the table, let alone the new things? They've decided to close the private prisons. And so what did the private prisons say? Screw you, we'll close early. And so now they are stuck with all these prisoners that they have no place to put. So what are they going to do? They're going to take a hollow shell of a prison that's not been housed, that's not had prisoners in it since it was built in Canyon City, and try to fit that for prisoners in months, to try to move prisoners into this maximum security that was never fit. We decided it wasn't fit for prisoners. Somehow move that at a price tag that is going to be in the multiple millions of dollars in Canyon City. So we already have things on the table to pay for that we don't have a funding stream for. So taxpayers are going to be asked to somehow fit the bill. We're going to have to somehow, or at least the legislature with Jared Polis at the head of this, is going to come to us with this hat in the hand and go, you're going to have to foot this. You're going to have to pay the bill. And I don't think Coloradans are going to do it. I think we're going to go, screw you.
They might very well come hand in hand and ask for more, but that doesn't get them through this budget cycle in this legislative session. So over here, what could still be enterprised and pulled out from underneath those Tabor caps that is within the, let's put it this way, is within the realm of the possible as opposed to like the fantasy realm?
Well, I don't have a complete list, and I think there's probably a tolerance limit on how many enterprises you can create in a single year.
Not quickly. I don't think you can create something this in a year, can you?
But the two that I've heard are motor vehicles, and then the unemployment insurance piece, especially the disability part, which is that we collect monies out there. We're gonna regard those as fees. Certainly, that's really what you're doing at the motor vehicles. You're paying for your license, and apparently there's a soup bowl out there with about $200 million in it, which may solve problems for this year. I mean, the long-term issue, something's going to have to happen. Can they apply enough Band-Aids this year to get through to November? I say don't underestimate their ingenuity. I mean, there are things that are going to happen that you've never heard of before, is my guess.
All right, let me kind of throw this out there and get your thoughts on it, because it seems to me that if you have all this stuff already on the table, going back years and years and years, and you don't have enough money to pay for it, and there's no new revenue coming in because we've hit the Tabor revenue cap and going to pay less in income taxes, it seems to me that one possible thing to do is to stop passing new large budget programs. Any chance at all of that happening this year?
Not unless you can put the payment of those programs into the next year's budget and you put it off, or you can somehow put the cost into local governments, which is possible. You know, I'm obviously, not obviously, but I'm an elected official for a local government. I can certainly see that we may be asked to pick up the cost for some of the services that are now paid for by the state. I can see that the county may get a call and go, you are now taking a care, or you're picking up the bill for a portion of this service or this cost. What that is, I don't know, but I could see that may end up happening, where local governments are now asked to pick up a portion of a cost. But honestly, I don't see where that happens. I just don't see. I'm not as optimistic.
Any chance of the leadership saying, "Hey, look, I love your idea, but we just can't do it this year"?
That's always a possibility, but
because Democrats are so good at that of self-control.
Oh yeah, let me back up. The Democratic leadership.
But there is another route, and I think in two cases you're going to see it, both the public option and if a family leave, which after all, Donald Trump just awarded family leave 12 weeks to federal employees. So there's a constituency out there for those kinds of services. Throw those into the private sector and let Pinnacle and the other insurers come up with a family leave policy and then you transfer the risk onto the insurance companies, and the taxpayers aren't at risk. It's up to and by the way, New York State, liberal state as you want, that's all privatized there. And I think the public option, they're already saying every insurer on the exchange has to offer a public option program or policy. Now, why would that be? Well, that would be because the risk would be on the insurer. State will lay down the rules, and then they have to do the public option. So, once again, creativity is at work. Sometimes you just don't know what it is.
Yeah, but even with that, though, then still the government's got to pick up government workers. They've still got to pick up the slack on that for those state workers that are also going to be eligible for those. So there's still an expense there. And they're also going to then set up another department who's going to regulate that, who's going to follow that new government red tape. I just think, again, that expense is still, especially as you set that program up, on the front end of that is also expensive. I don't think that offsets that at all, especially in the first 2 years. It just is, again, extremely expensive. I think we go back to what we talked about before. I think the AG getting involved and being able to privatize some of these things and signing off on allowing some of these things to become an enterprise, that may be the only thing that saves the state. That may be what the governor is eyeing, because I don't see another out for them. I really don't. I don't know how else they do it.
So, despite the fact of having a Democrat majority, tough year for Jared Polis, who has ambitious spending plans, but is not going to have a lot of money to do it.
Well, no, he's going to have a head knocking with the JBC before this is all over with. I don't think he understands that this is not a strong executive state.
Right.
Those decisions will be made by the six people.
All right, thanks. Miller, Roger, thanks as always for coming down. Check us out at CompleteColorado.com, and we'll see you next week.